Yeah, this is just one of many pieces that I have here that, well, I can say that they were really experiments. They weren't really planned to be finished pieces, probably. And when I first started What Ifing, it was basically just sort of asking myself a question and then trying to go through a few experiments to come up with an answer so that I could basically gather some techniques for myself. And this is my way of testing them. So the question here is, since I used to design a lot of my patchwork quilts on graph paper, I thought, well, what if I just use cloth instead, a more direct method, and what if the woven fabric itself could be a substitute for that, the graph paper? And at the same time, I was asking myself, what if patchwork could be appliqué? Instead of actually piecing, just applying patches to an overall grid. And as they come together, the seams would be formed. And I ended up doing a lot of that over time, and maybe even more than just direct piecing. Because it is still patchwork, in my view, because it's little scraps of cloth that come together in design and become useful. So this one really evolved, like a lot of those things, into a sampler of sorts, because once I began, first I sewed maybe a square over a square in the cloth, and then I maybe tried some other shapes, and then I started maybe stitching on the lines that define the woven pattern and accentuated them that way. And, I filled in some spaces with stitch, and, well, it went on and on. And as I worked, I also started experimenting with the word edge, so I guess it sort of developed a theme. But it's interesting in a way, because the woven fabric itself, being that I like weave so much, it's really generating, actually at this point, some even newer ideas. So I think I might even do a few more experiments with weave in my mind, rather than just patchwork. So it was good to pick it up again. And it's interesting because with the concept of edge, the grid idea, or the grid base, or working on a grid or with a grid for designing, it does provide you with a lot of edges. And in that way, it's kind of like a safety net. But, the woven pattern and the edges that creates has sort of renewed the interest here. I did do another round of stitching then on this, and I let all of that show on the back, even though I had gotten to a point where I thought I was just about done and I was going to quilt it. So now the back has become, or the other side has become, sort of a record of a renewed interest in this whole thing. And so yeah, I think this small journey thing is really part of it, is to go back and revisit some of the small journeys that were taken before I had the capability for video and audio, and to just revisit them and to try to renew that process. Because in the end, I want to put those all together and regenerate them in some sensible, orderly manner. So yeah, this is, it really is kind of a sampler, because it's got a little bit of everything, and like samplers are, you could just keep going. And I did keep going a little bit, and I did come up with some new ideas.